Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Beyond the Gatekeepers. I am Bishop-Elect Vanessa M. I'm your moderator for the evening, and we are so happy to be back after a 2-week hiatus. We hope that you are tuning in Facebook Live. We hope that you are tuning in Instagram. We hope that you are tuning in Twitter. We hope that you are tuning in YouTube and all the other social media platforms that we are on tonight, LinkedIn. We hope that you are tuning in. We are sharing. Make sure that you share the Facebook Live. We are very happy to be here. I want you all to begin to let us know where you are from. This is going to be a very important conversation on tonight. Let us know where you're from. I see people already are coming through, and I want you all to continue to share and share and share so that people know that we're here for this conversation on tonight. Somebody you think needs to hear. And so we have West Seattle, Washington here with us on tonight. So happy that you're here. Miko Mo, always in the house. Namaste to you, beloved. McDonough, Georgia. We have Cheryl Robinson Moore, of course, always with us every week as well. St. Louis, Missouri is in the house. Stockton, California, Reginald Nichols. God bless you, Reginald. Thank you for being here. Baltimore's here. Faithful, Marlene C. McLaurin. Thank you so much for being here with us on tonight. Eric, thank you from San Diego. We're glad. Sterling from Accra, Ghana. Thank you, Sterling, for joining in with us tonight. Frederick C. Hayes, thank you. Atlanta, Georgia's here. Garner, North Carolina. Bobby Boast is in the house. Beverly Scott Hudson, Philly is here. Dave Tony, Jersey City is in the house. Thank you so much, Dave. Denver, Colorado is here. Memphis, Tennessee is in the house. We've got people from everywhere that's tuned in with us on tonight. We're so very, very happy. Keep sharing, keep letting us know where you're from. We want to celebrate Atlanta, Georgia. Georgia, you've done good. Thank you so much for re-voting in Senator Raphael Warnock to the United States Senate for another 6 years. We are so happy about it. Bless you, Deacon Ryan. Bless you so much. Glad that you're here tonight. Yeah, Harlem is here. Michelle Mitchell, always representing. Come on through, everybody. Let us know. Ohio is in the house. Thank you so much for being here, Ohio. We're very, very glad to have you here on tonight. Yeah, let's go back to Georgia. Yeah, Georgia came through, y'all. I know it was a tight race, and we got to still discuss that. That's a whole nother conversation. We got to get the right people to have that conversation. But Georgia did come through. We say congratulations. We know he's got a praying mother. If any of you saw the video that's on my page, you see her quickening in the spirit. Come on here. Hallelujah. After he's announced, she dips down. Yes. I say, yes, mother. Give God praise. Chicago is in the house. Nate Tucker is here with us on tonight. We're so excited that you're here on tonight. We want some more people to gather in. We're sharing and we're letting folks know that we are here. Yes, mother was about to go in. All right. So wonderful. We know that he's got a praying mother, and we're so grateful for that. Atlanta, you sure did come through, and we hope that there's just victory parties all around. God bless you. Nashville, Tennessee is here with us on tonight. We're just so excited. We got a great, great conversation headed your way, and we want to make sure that we've got enough people in the room to get it started. YouTube, thank you for being here with us tonight. Marilyn Burrows, bless you. Herbert S. Jones, bless you, man. Boston, Massachusetts, glad you're here on tonight. Glad that you are here with us on tonight. I'm still looking to see. Oh, yes. Our dear brother L. Stanley Davis, bless you. We're so glad you're here with us on tonight from Chicago. Thank you so much. He's given us the forecast. He said it's 41 degrees. Come on here. Beautiful, chilly, and overcast, cloudy. We love it. Thank you so much. Let me get to it. Tonight, we're going to be talking to Nathan Hale Williams, and we are talking about All Boys Aren't Blue. All Boys Aren't Blue. Nathan is the president and CEO of Inhale Entertainment, LLC. And so I am so excited to have this brother here. God is doing incredible things in this man's life. And before we bring him, we want to show you the trailer for the film.
Now, I know you just had the baby, and Gregory said the baby's name's going to be George.
I was 5 years old when my teeth got kicked out. It was my first trauma.
I always thought it was funny that my grandmother had 3 last names. To me and the other grandkids, she was simply Nanny.
I was depressed at the start of second semester. I was having fun, but deep down inside, I hated myself.
2 others grabbed me by the arms and held me on the ground. I screamed for help as it was all I could do.
I had a home because Nanny insured it. When Nanny wanted something done, it got done.
I gave her the biggest smile I ever had since the day I lost it.
Our chapter was established by a founder of the frat in 1907, making us one of the oldest chapters in Black Greek history.
No amount of money, love, or support can protect you from a society intent on killing you for your blackness.
It was time for me to define me.
Thank you so much. Nathan, will you greet our social media platform audiences?
Hello, everyone. I'm Nathan Hale Williams, Bishop-Elect Vanessa M. It's so good to see you. We were just talking offline that, we both lived in Harlem for a long, long time, and I'm just happy. Greetings from Hollywood, and I'm just happy to engage with the Beyond the Gatekeepers audience. I was smiling so hard because I haven't seen the trailer for that in a while. So that was good.
It's incredible. Thank you so much. And we've got some of others that are coming in. They're with me pretty much every week. And we're so glad to have Bishop Carlton D. Pearson. He was away for a minute. He's an author, progressive spiritual teacher, and thought leader. And just so good to see his face. And let us greet him. And Bishop Pearson, will you greet our audience tonight as well?
Hey, I just spilled a big tall glass of ice water on my desk. Ain't nothing but the devil. Oh no, I don't believe in him. I'm experiencing a brand new curiosity in the actual mindset of thinkers like Nathan Hale. I'm fascinated with his honesty, with his authenticity, with his personal courage to not only see and sense, but say what he believes. And it's going to be a very educational program. In fact, even if children are not allowed to read the book, every grandparent or parent should. It shouldn't be banned from intelligent people who want to really know the truth. So tonight's going to be probably one of the most practical conversations about same gender loving men, especially in the African-American community, those with inclinations toward eroticism and emotions and philosophy and spirituality within the Black male community. This is going to be a time of enlightenment. So I'm really looking forward to listening, learning, and expanding. Thank you,
Bishop. Thank you so much. And certainly, we have Bishop Yvette Flunder. She's the presiding prelate of the Fellowship of Affirming Ministries and the senior pastor of City of Refuge United Church of Christ in Oakland, California. Bishop Flunder.
Well, good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
It's just cold everywhere, isn't it? It's just, but it is my joy, first of all, to be in the company of Bishop Pearson. I haven't seen him for a little while. And we were just about to send the posse out after him. But thanks be to God. Hallelujah. Who giveth us the victory. Amen. It is so good to see you, honey. And you look great. Thank you for being with us this evening, Nathan. And thank you for lifting up the stories that really do need to be told. And you touched in such important categories and ways in which our folks have been in so many ways closeted. But, you know, I'm of the opinion that book burning never works. It has never worked historically, and it will not work now. In fact, all it does often is give people a greater desire to find out why are they burning these books.
Amen.
And thanks be to God for virtual access to some of the same things that we at one time had to hold in our hands in order to read. And so we are praying for you that Godspeed. I have seen the film. I have to say, I am deeply moved. I brought up myriad experiences that I have had in my life, being a pastor and justice person in the work in and around justice for the LGBTQI community and all communities that have been dispossessed and sidelined and pushed essentially with an effort to dismiss all of the contributions and all of the beauty and all the power of those communities. I have seen that happen again and again, and I have also seen the hand of God come through and breakthrough over and over again. So thank you so much for the work that you've done. And thank you so much for the efforts and initiative and courage that it took. And watch and see that the last shall be first.
Amen.
And the first shall be last. It is the Lord's doing, and it is marvelous in our eyes. God bless.
Yes, Bishop, you're right on it. I was just telling him earlier, this is just the beginning of something so great in Nathan's life and all of the work and the stuff that he's been trying to do. Nathan, you wrote this, you did this film, and it is based upon the memoir that George Johnson wrote. You take excerpts from that memoir and you produce this wonderful film that we all have and had the benefit of seeing. Tell me about your creative process as it came to you in terms of doing this book and how does it advance Black queer storytelling?
Great. Well, thank you all again for having me. I am huge fans, and so I'm very honored to be here. And it is cold, even in LA. It's cold. I have on a sweater, and I'm still cold. So I'm with you, Bishop Flunder. But you know, it's nothing but divine order about how, and this is how I've always told the story. I just had finished reading All Boys Aren't Blue, which is the memoir manifesto written by George Matthew Johnson. And I knew of them. And I said to myself, I have to figure out a way. This is in 2020, because of the pandemic, years are off. This is the end of 2020. So we were in the height of the pandemic. And so this was, a couple of weeks before Thanksgiving. And I said to myself, I have to figure out how to track them down to tell them how much their story and their sharing resonated with me. And almost like clockwork, because we know how divine intervention goes. Maybe a day later, it might have been 2 days later, I got a call from a longtime partner of mine, Amara Kennedy from the AIDS Healthcare Foundation, saying that they were on a speakerphone with a three-way with George Matthew Johnson, and if I had heard of this book, All Boys Aren't Blue. And I said, well, I literally was just saying to just no one, but just to the universe, I want to get in touch with George to tell them how much the book resonated with me. And then 1 day later, Amara and George called me and asked me to do something with the book for National Black HIV/AIDS Awareness Day, African American Awareness Day in February. And what they had in mind was basically like a reading of the book. And so we got on the phone and I asked them, I said, well, how much creative license do I have? And they were like, well, tell us what you're thinking about. I said, well, let me go away and think about it. And then I came back, I said, we can make this into a film. We can merge the concepts into one where it feels like a reading, but I also want it to feel cinematic and I want it to feel beautiful. And I want what I create to live up to the text. And so if I can do an adaptation of the text and translate that into a film, and then feeling like a Harlem art gallery or speakeasy, that's the feel I want to go for. And both George and Amara said, go with it. And, as I said, we were in the height of the pandemic. And so we shot the film in 1 day in January of 2021. And then I had 3 weeks to edit it for it to premiere February 7th. 2021. So that was the beginning of the creative process, but I really wanted the film to live up to the text, the lushness, the vividness, the honesty, the authenticity of the text.
That's incredible. And let me just get right to it. You speak about a lot of things that I know, as Bishop Flunder said, that a lot of Black queer men go through, a lot of Black gay men go through. He talks about his experience with fraternities, right? He talks about his nanny. Tell me what made you target, because these are excerpts, those particular issues.
I think that, when we were talking about which chapters we would highlight and illuminate in the film, I think it was just these chapters were the ones that show the natural progression of George's life. It takes in pivotal moments in George's life. So when they were 5 years old, they were coming home and they got in a fight with their cousins, and in the process,
jumped. Yes.
Yeah, they got jumped, and in the process of the fight, George's teeth got knocked out, and it took away their smile, and they didn't smile for a very, very long time because of this self-consciousness. But it was also wrapped in the queerness. It was also wrapped in these feelings of inadequacy and these feelings that they were having at the time that they could not, they felt that they could not articulate. And so I love that beginning. And then the center story is, the relationship with their nanny, their grandmother. And I called my nanny, my father's mother, Nanny, as well. And so that resonated with me. And everyone, growing up queer, Black and queer, particularly Black and brown and queer in America, you hopefully have that one person, that's like their nanny that says, you be who you are. It's okay. You know, we want more of that. And then the third chapter that we selected was when they went to college. And like George, you know, I pledged a fraternity, and it was really seeking masculinity. It was really seeking validation. We know that the Black Greek organizations hold such high esteem in our community, particularly with the fraternities and men. And so that resonated with me too, but it takes us across a span of their life that I thought gave a great section, a great slice of their life and their journey. And so that's how we chose those chapters.
Bishop Flunder, can you add to the conversation? He talked about George being 5 years old, being jumped, and his tooth being kicked out, and he wouldn't smile.
Mm-hmm. Childhood trauma, you know, and the importance of secrecy, you know, and the way in which I believe not only society, but sometimes the family too. I think I was particularly moved by the way in which the family reacted, told him to run home, and go get in the shelter essentially of the family. And then essentially what likely was the outcome to that is that we just won't speak about this. We won't say a lot about this. We're going to keep this. Very different than if something like that perhaps had happened to some of the children that were European American children, white children, and other families that I can think of. They would have gone directly to the police department and talked to and called names and made an effort to get people arrested. And I think that the oppression and suppression that was experienced was twofold. One, the likelihood that he might have already been showing what were considered traits of being a same-gender loving man, young man, but also because the family knew that you could have more trouble than the trouble that was created for you if you said too much, if you did too much. But that does not alleviate the trauma. Can't make the trauma go away. And I was particularly touched by his testimony of the fact that once his baby teeth were removed and his adult teeth came in, he was a child with adult teeth. And I said, that's preaching fodder right there.
Mm-hmm.
When you really think about it, that when your childhood is severely interrupted, spiritually, physically, emotionally, sexually, when your childhood is severely interrupted and you have a child's body and a child's mind and you have grown people teeth, there's something very painfully difficult about trying to ride those same horses at the same time. You're not ready. You're not ready, but you're forced to be ready. That to knock all of his teeth out was the same thing would have been to take a girl's virginity. Because all of a sudden, you have been made a woman, and sometimes made a woman before menses, depending on when you were abused, if you understand what I'm saying. So I think that to a large degree, it was a real statement about what sometimes children have to endure, or children do endure. But if you add to that the fact that they cannot cry out and cannot feel that they cannot seek help, it can begin trauma that just continues to have closet after closet after closet after closet. It really touched me very deeply.
And if I may add that, one of the things that happens is little black boys particularly don't get to be little black boys. And the introduction of the adult teeth as a metaphor is, kind of a trauma that's shared universally amongst black boys. You get the talk, at a very young age that when you go into certain spaces, you have to be a certain way. You have to be on your P's and Q's. You don't just get to be a kid. And then you add the layer of queerness to it. It really took from George a space to really grow up as a little boy. And questioning and George is non-binary, identifies as non-binary now, but I think that they would talk about that moment did strike, did take away from them a moment to be a little boy.
I think that's so important. And Bishop Pearson, I know that you watched a little bit of the film as well. Talk about, if you can, what you saw in terms of him being a young black man and this incident happening to him as well. Because I believe that this also shaped who he became, in terms of his future and who he was going to be, right?
Mm-hmm. I think I understood the assailants to be cousins. Is that correct?
No, they were actually white young boys that they knew in the neighborhood. His cousins were with him, and they were defending. They were the ones that fighting for him.
So the guys who assaulted him were white. I didn't get that. I just watched it tonight because I got it at the last minute. What I find interesting among many things is that being black is not something you can hide. Our blackness or our colorness is conspicuous. We've been marginalized, lynched, beaten, tortured, denounced, denied for 400 years in this country. So we're all suffering from PTSD. To be a black gay man adds a whole nother, has to add, because because I'm 70 years old, but it's a little bit more common for you to hear of children or others being gay in any race. But you're forced up until now to hide it so that even from other black people, that's a whole interesting aspect of it. The pastors, the churches, sometimes the parents or cousins will not allow it. It would not accept it. That is prevalent today, but not as prevalent as it was 70 years ago when I was born. We never thought about, we didn't have any gay people in our family, so it wasn't something we talked about very much. We didn't have very much in the holiness church that we knew of. It was don't ask, don't tell. But the interesting part of me is having to hide who you are and who you aren't at such an early age does make you grow teeth, whether somebody kicks them out or not. I would imagine that a child who is gay and ethnic has learned how to navigate and negotiate him or herself in modern society, starting with your own family, and then your community, your friends, cousins, church folk, and then later on to be attacked for race and or sexuality by white people had to add some scars and some deep injuries and wounds that are probably still healing. Writing that book and now making a movie of it is part of the therapy. It has to be cathartic in some ways. And it is to the rest of the world who watches, because when you first see it, you wonder, does gay mean I don't like women or I just like men? Or does it mean I don't like women or I like both and prefer men? Or the other way around, if it's women, I like, because I know a lot of lesbians who are grandmothers. And so the other community who are not gay, we look and say, what's really going on in their mind? And how does that add to your culture or your consciousness or your character or your color or your religion, your community? Does everybody have a nanny or nana? I call mine Big Mama. I was 10 years old when she died, and she was 53, died eaten up of cancer. So I saw a lot of things that I related to when it comes to family and community and culture. But it's interesting that, and I'd like for you to say, of course, you didn't write the book, but I'm sure you understand it, Nathan. hiding sexuality. What's that process? In addition to the fact that you cannot hide your ethnicity.
Well, I think I can speak a little bit for George, but I can speak for myself more accurately. For George, I honestly, one of the reasons that attracted me to this story is that their family was an accepting, open, loving family. It was a different narrative. It was not the narrative of a family where they grew up, where they were shunned or they had to hide themselves. And George is very explicit that they've always been effeminate and their father never cared. They've always, expressed themselves in a way that it was clear, just as their Blackness, that they were queer, and that their family nucleus was supportive of who they were. And that's one of the reasons, the things that attracted me to this story, because it was a different narrative than the typical narrative we hear from about Black families. It was more aligned with my narrative of my family. My family, when I came out, they kind of were like, yeah, we know. It was my grandfather, who I call Big Daddy, God rest his soul. He basically set the standard in the family. Nate is one of us. We don't differentiate just because of sexuality. And so I did not go through the trauma that so many people go through, because my family was like, it's us against the world. We don't care what they say outside about your queerness, your gayness, or whatever, because in this family, you are loved. And that's one of the things that George and I shared in terms of our experiences that are different than the typical narrative you hear about the Black family kicking you out or shunning you or whatever. We both came from loving, affirming families. And that's why I wanted to tell this story, because that narrative is not told in the zeitgeist as much as the other narrative is. And so for me, the hiding came outside of my family. You know what I mean? The hiding came outside in the greater world, because, I'm a child of the 70s. I was born in the 70s. And so in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, we didn't have logo. We didn't have affirming churches. And my dad's a Baptist preacher. And so, it was kind of like one of those things. What happens in the incubus and cocoon you have in home is very different than what's out in the world. And so you should know that. And it's how we are as Black people in general. It's very aligned with my Blackness. It's like we can be really, really Black at home, but when you go outside, know that the rest of the world does not respond that way. And so you have to code switch, right? So the hiding for me really came when I stepped outside of the doors of my family's house, which created this dichotomy in my spirit that jacked me up for years until I got into therapy, until I got into dealing with kind of living a duality of life where I could be myself at home. But then when I went out into the world, I remember when I was practicing law for the first couple of years, and I was at the law firms, and I pretended my best friend was my girlfriend, because they would always ask me, you're a good looking guy, Nathan, where are all the, you make a lot of money, you're a high powered corporate lawyer, where are these girls? And so I told my best friend, Danielle, just be my girlfriend. And, and we'll deal with it later. That message, that does mess you up. That does, really mess with your psyche around identity and authenticity, right? And so you are always putting on a mask. That book, We Wear the Mask. The same is true when it comes to queerness and gayness. And one of the reasons why I was attracted to this project was because of George's evolution in their authentic self and being their authentic self and showing a different narrative of how you could be that and be successful. And when we started the project, George had not made the New York Times bestseller list, and the book had been out for a while, and then all the controversy started around the banning of the book. And I said, George, this is a blessing. I said it's going to have the inverse effect of what they are intending, and it's going to illuminate your book, and people who are supportive, which is more people than the people that are trying to ban your book, are going to lift the book up. And they made the New York Times bestseller list a whole year after the book came out because they tried to ban it.
How old were you when you came out, Nathan?
So it was a rolling come out. My family has always known. My mother is, one of those black mamas. She said she always knew. I officially came out to my mother when I was 17. And then I came out again because I wasn't really quite ready to deal with that whole conversation. I came out to my family as a whole when I was 27. But, like I said, my family was like, we were just waiting for you to be comfortable. And, but I never was told to talk differently. I was never told to walk differently. I was never told boys don't do this, but, girls, I never was taught any of that because the entire time my family they knew what was up, and so the coming out was more for me than it was for them.
Gotcha. Would you have had more shame if they had more shame, or did you wrestle with shame at all?
I did wrestle with shame, but it was because of the greater society and not my family. My mother made the decision, even though she was the first lady of the church, to not go to my father's church because she did not agree with a lot of the doctrine. And I think that, and she tells me now that one of the primary reasons is because she knew that I was gay. And so we went to a United Methodist church where it was a much more affirming, and she had grown up United Methodist. And so can you imagine how controversial that is, that a pastor's wife does not go to his church, because that's the kind of woman my mama is. And so my mom and my family took very good care to protect me in the cocoon of our life, right? It wasn't until I went into the greater society that I started feeling like there was something wrong with me, where someone said, why do you talk like a girl? Why do you walk like that? Why are you in dance class? And, I was one of those kids that was in dance class and played hockey and played baseball. And I did it all, but it wasn't until the greater society started questioning me that I started feeling any kind of shame. It didn't happen in my family, thank God.
Your dad was cool. He never expressed any shame or.
Yeah, well, he did, but I was a teenager by then. And so he actually told me, he said, if I found out you were gay, I'd just shoot you. And so thank you, Reverend Williams. But by then, my mother was such a force that she wasn't here for it. You know what I mean? And my parents were divorced. My parents got a divorce when I was 11. So we weren't in the same household when that happened. And then when my mother found out, I don't know what she said to him, but he never said anything like that to me again.
Wow.
Listen, she told him a couple of things. Okay,
you know.
I can hear it in my mind.
Yeah, nothing she would have said in church.
Listen, that's all right. She had to go. She would have.
I was just talking to a young white gay person in church on Sunday who was of the Assemblies of God, and I had preached in that church when he was a boy, but he was 15 when he came out to his pastor, and his pastor listened to him and prayed with him. And then on Sunday, I preached against homosexuality using that terminology. And at the end, had the young man to come forward and confess his sins, and then kicked him out of he was 15. They kicked him out of the church. The church, he said, turned their back and they escorted him out. He didn't seem bitter or anything. He didn't even seem broken. But I didn't get to talk to him very long, so I'm going to talk further to pick his brain out what that experience and how the church, because we're talking about a pastor and another woman of God that took you to another church. Was that a black UMC?
Yes.
Okay, but then a lot of those, but I understand, and they're usually a little bit more progressive. But the kid somehow survived, because he's 27 now. I think is what he told me Sunday. He has somehow survived it. He was with a couple of one of the pastors of our church is gay, and he and his husband, they were together, and they were all talking and laughing after church. And I had preached, and I'm just curious that he sustained that kind of rejection. Where in your life did you experience that kind of, other than what your dad said, public or religious rejection, and what kind of scars might it have inflicted on you?
I say this to everyone. It is a radical act for me to be me, because I am. The minute I step outside of my house, every fiber, every part, every space of my being is under attack. Under attack. Whether it be my blackness, my black maleness, which is different than my blackness, or my queerness, and then you mix them all up, then you can feel literally under siege every day. But it has made me resilient, persistent, and durable. So in terms of like a one particular moment, it happens every day. There is somebody saying something about some aspect of my identity every day. Every day in the world, and with social media, it's one reason why I got off of Twitter, because I just felt always under attack, various aspects of my identity. So to pinpoint one thing is difficult because it's an ongoing thing. But thankfully, again, like George, I have this amazing, wonderful family, and that's why I talk about my family so much, because I want to model out there in the world that this exists, that Black families there are loving, affirming, accepting, uplifting Black families out there, and that there is a different narrative than families that are shunning their family members. Because I think we do hear enough and a lot of the other version of the narrative, and that's why I'm screaming to the lungs that my family's that way, George's family is that way, and I know there's thousands, if not millions of more families that are that way.
Beautiful.
That's beautiful. It's so funny that you said that, because somebody just put in, Bishop Bonnie Radder just put in, and I remember this story. Actually, the mother used to reach out to me, a young Black brother, 14 years old, Giovanni Melton, and he was gay. His father said he'd rather have a dead son than a gay son, and he killed him. He shot and killed him. The father was on house arrest for 5 years before his trial, and 2 weeks ago, he was sentenced to 24 years to life in prison.
What? I didn't hear.
And that's referenced in the film. Delon's chapter, the opening chapter, talks about, that we don't mention him by name, but we talk about, we mention that, he'd rather have a dead son than a gay son. Yep. And unfortunately, that's the prevailing narrative, which is why Dr. King says, you don't, or is it Nelson Mandela, hate can't drive out hate, only love can do that. And so that's why I scream to the top of my lungs, a different love narrative, because we've heard that, and I want people to know that it is possible.
Was that a white boy?
No, he's
Giovanni is Black.
Yep.
Giovanni's Black. Okay.
Yep.
Was his daddy religious man, or was it?
I don't really know.
Most of the rejection comes from the fundamentalist evangelical Christian, not the less evangelical or unevangelical, non-fundamentalist. But fundamentalist Christians are the ones that, if they're messing with you every day, Nathan, how many of them, you wouldn't know necessarily, but I suppose most of these people are stuck in the religious mindset that will never accept what the Bible in their interpretation calls an abomination. It's an omen of your greatness, really. That's what the omen is, right in the middle of abomination. It's an omen of your specialness, of your uniqueness, of your spirituality. Like you're almost like some kind of a shaman. I can't wait to read your book someday, because you're brilliant. But the religious people. Now,
I've got 5. They're on Amazon. You can get them anytime.
Oh, there you go.
5 books?
Yep.
Yes.
Name them.
Well, it'll take too much time, but they're all on Amazon under my name, Nathan Hale Williams.
Give me a name of one.
Ladies Who Lunch and Love, The Girl's Best Friend, Inspiration Profiles of Black Women Changing Our World, What You Don't Know Is Hurting You, 4 Keys to a Phenomenal Career, and then True Diversity, Going Beyond the Pie Graph.
I'm gonna have to learn how to read.
They're audiobooks too. So
Bishop Flunder, I know you had something to say. You had your mic open. And to answer your question, Bishop Pearson, his father, Giovanni's father, was a religious man.
He was a religious man.
Yes, he was.
I assume that.
Who probably felt very justified, And I think our truth, let me start there and say that the way that this father felt and the way that so many others has to do with their damaged patriarchy or damaged sense of self as well.
I agree.
Essentially, if the son's sexual orientation, emotional and intimate self is so different from what the father experienced, and the father somehow feels that that reality can be extinguished by extinguishing the child, extinguishing the son. And that happens, yes, in people killing people, but also dismissing them from their lives and their consciousness. It usually means that that person has a poor sense of self-worth and self-value too. And I want to say that because I think we have some incredibly damaged Black men in our society. Something that I look at people like Bishop Pearson, and I talk with people like him, and that he clearly identifies as a heterosexual man, but simultaneously he does not have to diminish men who are same gender loving or gender non-conforming in order to feel powerful.
Right.
It is not unlike the ways in which white people have to diminish Black people in order to feel powerful. Or men have to diminish women in order to feel powerful. It's that my power, my strength depends on your weakness. That is an illness, but it is a prevailing illness that exists. And I'm watching it happen all over the world, essentially where people who lead countries and lead, tons of people. But if they are not receiving, like what has just happened here recently in China, where the people had to break free because they had all been quarantined beyond COVID. It was more of the business of controlling activists than it was controlling COVID. And so the leadership then makes everybody stay home and say, we're doing it for your benefit. We know something about this. We know how this works. Or that women have to wear a head cover. If you don't wear a cover on your head, you're going to be stoned. And one woman was stoned to death. And the women in the country rose up and said that if your power is dependent upon my diminishing myself, I'm done with that, because that's a fate worse than death. And when people were no longer afraid to die, and they started coming out, and they killed a few of them on the front end, you know what I'm saying? But they couldn't kill everybody.
Right.
So eventually China had to change its laws. Certain of the Muslim countries had to change their laws, Iran being one, am I right?
Yeah.
And we watched it happen in Atlanta in just a little while ago.
A few minutes.
That every Black man is not a Black man. Let's just put it that way. And everybody was put up to do it. So you pick somebody who was put up to do it. And as one of the white pundits came on and said, well, I think, Herschel Walker is one of the best representatives of Black men that we've seen in a long time. And I'm thinking to myself, and I like to say I'm sanctified and spirit-filled, but let me tell you, I said, what the hell are you talking about? Exactly. Have you asked any of us what we think? Is this your measure? And this essentially, if we can get more folks like that, you'll be less prejudiced. Is that what you try? If we can grab us a bunch of step and fetch it, you'll be all right with that. What is it that my heart is saying? And that is that people make determinations based upon what is often their own fears. And I'd like to just lift up just one other reality around that. When I watched the very intimate and truth-telling story that Lizzo did for her life, when she told her story,
so powerful.
She's a girl like I'm a Kojic girl. She was raised in the same denomination that I was raised in
Texas. Yep.
I didn't know that.
Yep.
Houston. She was raised the same. I know her people. I know the church that she belonged to. And I also understand her pain, because there's a sameness in this thing that the four of us in this conversation know something about. What is it like to be othered? Bishop Pearson, I cannot imagine some of the leaders who dismissed him for simply because of inclusion.
Mm-hmm.
I cannot imagine how literally, spiritually wanton they must have been
Mm-hmm.
to think that that was necessary in order to make them powerful.
And now
His
most of them are dead. And now most of
and
them are
most of
dead.
them are dead. And
And now
some of them are
most of them
alive
are
and
dead.
dead. Some
Alive.
of them are alive and dead.
Yeah.
But to your point, Bishop
They can't-
Flunder,
they
it
can't
all
get 50 people, let me just say 50 people to come to anything that they do
Mm-hmm.
now
They can't get
because they are alive
and dead.
and dead.
My God.
That's why I lifted up Lizzo. Lizzo brought her behind. Now I just need to go on and say it because I can. The first thing that she showed them when she decided she was going to be Lizzo was her whole behind. You all understand? And basically, take your time and kiss my behind. That was
Lift
the
up
whole.
your hand and tell him thank you.
yeah.
And there's something so powerful about self-worth and self-value when you decide that you matter to you, that you matter to God,
Wow.
and that you are bringing something good and powerful into the earth realm. So I'm going to back up off of that. Go ahead.
Nathan.
Well, I first of all, I love Lizzo, and my respect for her grew. I have a 15-year-old goddaughter, niece, and we went to the Lizzo concert together. And to see, I liked Lizzo before I went to the concert, but then to see all of these girls and young women empowered and in their bodies being empowered as women, it just took it over the horizon for me with Lizzo. And then I watched the documentary on HBO, and she's got a fan in me for a very long time because, like you said, there's these similarities in otherness, right? And when you see someone break through the shackles of their otherness to triumph, it is illuminating and exuberant for us who've experienced it too. But I think all of, to your previous point, Bishop Flunder, this all stems from white patriarchy and racism, and I want Black people to get it in their minds that this divisiveness is meant to do nothing but destroy us. And that it is meant to separate us, to separate our power. And so, and because we believe, because of the patriarchy, we believe that there's a totem pole of people, right? And so if you are a Black man, you feel like, there's one person, there's a group of people beneath you, there's women, and then there's gay people. And so I can step on them and I can feel powerful that way, instead of understanding that you actually get power by lifting the people, up. And you actually get power by coalescing as a community to fight the racism and the patriarchy that is only, they're laughing at us. Herschel Walker is a joke. It is an affront to who we are as Black people. And it's to say, we can put this man in here who cannot complete a dang on sentence and it'll still work, because that's what we think of you all. But thank you, Lord. Thank you, Lord. Last night, Georgia said, no, we're not going to do it.
That's it.
But that is all. It all stems from the divisions that they are sowing into our community. Because imagine because who's the group that people go to in elections? The Democrats, at least, Black folks. If Black folks don't vote, the Democrats don't win. And they're finally starting to get it, right? They're finally starting to get it. But imagine if Black people really banded together and didn't care about all of these things that are set up to divide us, how powerful we are. They can imagine it. And that's why they're sowing the divisiveness into our community.
Absolutely.
Can I just say
Nathan, yes,
thing?
ma'am. Go ahead.
How much respect and regard I have, along with what Nathan is saying, for these top shelf Black athletes who have children who are same gender loving children and trans children and gender non-conforming children, and that they are speaking on behalf of their children and not allowing anyone to diminish their children or to diminish their masculinity. Essentially, because that's the way that people come for them. Why would you let your son? Why would you let your daughter? Do you understand? Why would you permit? And when their fathers, particularly their fathers, stand up for them and help to finance their clothing company, or help them with surgeries if there are surgeries that are needed and such, and will not diminish or deny their own children, that breaks in many ways the ceiling of perceptions about Black fathers who are not afraid to somehow have somebody say, well, what kind of man are you?
Yeah.
Well, you want to know what kind of man I am? Watch me out here on this floor. You want to know what kind of man I am? Come for my child. You will find out. How powerful is that in this time? And I see it happening now again and again, and I honor it. I thank God for it, much like you thank God for the way in which you were blessed with your mother, Nathan. Much like that, watching this happen in sports is also a great blessing.
And with my grandfather, who, he died at 89, but this was a Black man from Mississippi, and he never wavered. There was never a question in his mind. I was his grandson, and you would have had a problem with Charles Gage if you had said something about Nathan Hale Williams. And for me, it just set the standard and a tone throughout our whole family about me coming out and my gayness, and it was such a great example because, this wasn't something he contemplated in his life, you know what I mean? But he knew that he loved me, and that was it.
And that's all there is to it. That's so powerful, Nathan.
A little bit of a psychoanalytical, and I'm not a what do you call them? Psychoanalysis, whatever the professional term is. The father of Giovanni, my observation is that somebody like that who would kill or say, I'll kill you if you're gay or because you're gay, is saying, I'll kill me, because that's part of him, if I took the liberty that you're taking, which means maybe deep down in that father's spirit, heart, emotions, psychology, was a leaning toward a curiosity, a fascination with same-gender loving eroticism. And he is, and I know this happens in heterosexual circles, where a man who is faithful to his wife sees another brother who's not faithful to his wife and has many other women. Now, there's a lot of married men who are attracted to other women outside their wives, but they're restraining themselves. And then they get really angry at the guy, especially if he's the preacher who's getting all that tail, and he ain't getting none, but his wife's. Now, that man who attacked his own son, what if he was attacking his own proclivities or propensities towards same-gender attraction and is hiding behind it? Him saying, that's like somebody saying, Black or gay folks ain't born that way. They choose to be gay. That person is saying, I could have been gay too, but I chose not to, which means I have the capacity or the propensity to, but I chose to resist it. He's telling on himself. And I think there's a lot of parents, particularly fathers in the African-American community, who are so violently opposed to their gay sons that because they said, I could have gone that way, but I didn't. I followed through, I got married, I have children, and I'm going on with my life, and I'm full of the Holy Ghost and whatever deacons say. But he's trying to kill someone like Jimmy Swaggart, pointing his finger at the camera and rebuking adulterers and all that stuff when he was dealing with it himself. He was identifying who he was. So we need to study that a little bit more carefully. And what happens to this man now if he goes to prison? What were those?
He is going to prison. He's going to prison for 24 years.
He's sentenced already.
He is. He's going on his way.
Well, he's going to experience
a lot of things.
Yeah.
Nathan is going to have to leave us. But Nathan, I know you got a heart out. I want to say this really quickly. You are intentional in connecting Black women and Black queer men in your narratives. Is that because of the relationship you have with your mom?
Well, Black women are the superstars of my life. My mother, my grandmother, my aunties, my friends, and that is not to negate the importance of Black men have had in my life. I've had amazing role models, but there is a special relationship between Black women and Black queer people that means something to me as a storyteller, and that I want to illuminate. And it goes beyond the stereotypical your hairdresser or whatever, but just there's a bond that I like to illuminate because it means so much to me. Black women have made the difference in my trajectory of success along the way. And, for the longest time, I wrote a column for Essence magazine called The Girl's Best Friend, where I illuminated that very special relationship. But I also know that, and this to be the truth, that as Black women go, so does the Black community. And so I think that as we move those conversations along, I think the community will come along. I think that a lot of times you will find, and this could be a whole nother 2-hour discussion, that Black men are reacting to what they think Black women are going to react to. And so, their proximity to gayness or whatever, they don't want to be misconstrued as gay, even though they may not have a problem with it, right? And so, but that's so much for me to unpack there. But I think that relationship in terms of moving the conversation in our community along is important. So that's why I illuminate it in my work. But I also think that the Black community has to deal with homophobia head on. We got to do it because it's one of our Achilles heels that it doesn't have to be, because we are present in your families, we're present in your churches, we are present everywhere. And guess what? We're not going anywhere, whether you say gay or not. We're going to still be here, And so either we deal with it as a community and get this monkey off of our back, this homophobic monkey off of our back, and rise up as a community, or we're going to still deal with the same issues that we consistently deal with and under the foot of the white patriarchy and racism. And I believe that we are stronger than that. And I believe that there's so many more of us that want to see us progress to the point where the entire community is banded together and moving forward.
Good.
Thank you so much, Nathan. Love you. Listen,
love you so
everybody,
much.
please make sure you rent the film on Amazon. You can rent the film on Amazon so you can see it. If you want to buy the book is by George Matthew Johnson. You can purchase the book as well. Thank you so much, Nathan. I love you.
And I love you all.
You.
I love this conversation. Have me back anytime.
I will, indeed.
Okay. Thank you.
Blessings to you.
We think you're going to turn out to be something.
Yeah, he is. He's doing he told me before he got on, he's doing some great work in Hollywood, and we're going to see his name more with some really, really great people. Great. And so I'm definitely proud. But you asked a very good question, Bishop Pearson, as it related to the young man Giovanni. That father was a religious man who killed his own son, that perhaps he was dealing with his own stuff.
Yes.
And that could be very well the situation, as it is in many, many Black men's lives. There is this secrecy, there's this hiding. We talked about it earlier. And I know Bishop Flunder could say more because she's had many people to counsel and to know and to be in relationship with, that are existing now, that are still going through some of these things of secrecy and hiding and self-loathing and internalized homophobia and all of these things.
And particularly among the brothers that I have known and know who can move easily in a heterosexual environment. Essentially, the more machismo that their external gives, the more that the dance can happen, if you understand what I'm saying. That there are some people that walk past you and you say, gay. Instantaneously, right? But there are others that you would be trying to figure it out all the time, because the role that they have in the LGBTQI community is not really much different than the role that they have in the straight community, because they see themselves as tops and not bottoms. They see themselves as the masculine of a masculine-feminine relationship. So it happens, just a difference in anatomy, It's not so much a difference in patriarchy. It remains, and such a reality exists and really exists in positions of leadership, a lot of times in the church in particular. And that's the reason why the closet can exist the way that it does, because there is no real visible difference between people who are in that place, in that role, and as we say, pass.
Well, you heard when Nathan said his father said to him, as a Baptist preacher, a pastor of a church in Chicago,
Yes.
he told his own son,
yes,
if I find out that you gay, I'm going to kill you.
yes.
And his mother was like, I'm not having any of this.
And she took her boy and got
She
on
took
up
her
out of
boy
there.
to a United Methodist church. She divorced his ass and moved on.
Yes. And went on.
Because you are not, but this is the thing, like, but again, Black women, right? Because like we're not having this. You're not gonna beat up on me, my son. You're not gonna threaten us. We're not gonna do that. And you could just keep going. What you doing? Preach whatever you're gonna preach, but you're not gonna do it to my son.
Wow.
To my daughter.
But how weak and how broken is that? And families that we know of, that Bishop Pearson walked with, these families that had an out son. And when I say out, I don't mean coming out. I mean who was an outlier. Somebody that they did not receive. And exactly. And we thought, we never even knew there was another child in some of those families. For all of the reasons that we are talking about right now, for all of the reasons, it is like when somebody white got with somebody Black and had a mulatto baby somewhere, and the family just wouldn't have anything to do with that one with the curly nappy hair, and the sort of cafe au lait in their skin color. Nobody would have anything to do, as though it would bring the family down for those realities. And we've got to, the brother said it, and if we don't get anything else that we're saying here tonight, we are not going to win if we don't get together.
That's it.
And some of the greatest talent and ability in the Black community still exists in some of the people who are the most ostracized. And I've said it ad nauseum. Where would be the artists? Where would be the gospel music writers? Where would be the dancers?
That's
The
it.
people who bring panache and aplomb to people who want to dress right and look right and get your hair right and all that. You can't just take that whole community. And some of the greatest preachers and greatest orators, greatest educators, you can't take those kinds of gifts and skills and push them to the side simply because we have been made to think in some way that we are all binary. It is a lie, and it is an incorrect construct. Even those people who consider themselves heterosexual don't like the same things.
That's right.
And people,
That's right.
men and women, we don't fit snugly in any of these boxes that have been created for us. It's all a farce. It's all a lie. It's all a construct that all of us need to jettison so that the whole family can come home. The whole family.
Yes. The other thing that you said, Bishop Flunder, and that Nathan said about his mother, I need everybody to hear this if you don't get anything else. She took her son. She did not like the doctrine of that church.
Yeah.
Let me say that again. She did not like the doctrine of that church because it would have done something to her son. True. She got her son and she left that church and went to another church. You can do that too. Yeah. You can get up from that church that you are in that's beating up on your son, your daughter, or on you, and you can leave. And somebody said it's not that easy. Yes, you can. She went to a United Methodist church. Guess what? United Methodist church has split
over that.
And today, I think I might have posted 420 something churches in Texas have left the United Methodist organization.
Because they're for or against?
Because they are against. They split.
Of course they split.
Horrible.
That's just the beginning. A lot of churches will split before it's over.
Of course they will.
Sure.
And then a lot of us will become new United Methodists.
Yeah, that's true.
And my feeling about it is if you got to buy Felicia.
Yeah.
439 Texas churches split from United Methodist Church as slow motion schism continues.
Because the United
happen.
Church is open toward same gender relationships. That's the issue.
Because the United Methodist Church consecrated a Black, openly gay man as bishop. That was the thing that it wasn't when the sister I know, the white sister that became bishop, that's from California, put them
Oliveto.
in Oliveto. They put them in conversation. They went in conversation and they were supposed to have a decision-making meeting, a gathering to decide what to do. COVID hit. That did not come to pass the way that they had intended. What ended up happening is the people who are open and affirming within the church elected a Black gay man as bishop. And there was inevitability that there would be a split. But that was the watershed event that created that and it was some Black leaders and Black bishops that asked to have him sit down until they can make the full decision. It wasn't just white people. It was also Black Methodists and other Methodists, of course, that said that they want, but there will be two Methodist churches. This is not the first time a Reformation has split a denomination.
Not the first time. Not the 439 churches. They left. They disagree with same-sex marriage and homosexuality among most issues. And it says, in all, about 546 of the 1,260 Methodist churches in Texas, about 45% are on their way out of the United Methodist Church. They're joining some kind of global Methodist church that's conservative.
Created something new. That's exactly, and it embraced it. That teaching has been embraced by many of the African Methodist churches. I mean, on the continent of Africa, particularly the ones who receive funding from the church that are big steeple churches. But that is a reformation.
It is.
You know, and at the same time, it saddens me. I think it is glorious.
Yeah, I think so too. Let them go.
They've done it over
I know that
women.
they're going to take their money, they're going to take their buildings, but let them go.
Well, they've done it
over gay people.
They can go, but they will not grow. I'll tell you, because this is not the season. What you saw January 6th, all this rebellion and I often say there's a difference in Christian whiteness and Christian witness. This whole this Christian nationalism, the church has so exposed itself and almost deposed itself from being a major relevant influence in the culture anymore.
So Bishop Flunder and Bishop Pearson, someone is saying that the split is because of the African delegates from Africa who feel that homosexuality is a demonic situation. They are still waiting to vote on this issue because COVID stopped the vote. Africa is causing this split.
Let me say that the African churches, let me tell you again what a brother said to me one day when I was at a meeting of conservatives. I got invited on an accident, and I was at a meeting of conservatives, and we were talking about what we believed. We were really talking about it. And the brother said, really, sister, he said, sister, I understand. He said, but they dig wells. I'll never forget what he said to me. Essentially, one of the ways that a lot of our people, see, same gender loving people on the continent of Africa from country to country have existed just like they have in every other quarter of the world. Nothing about this is new. This has been a part of human society as much as growing hair and toenails is a part of human society. But essentially, he was saying to me, almost all of those churches are people who depend, I need to say it again, people who depend on what comes from those large steeple churches in the United States. That was what he was saying to me. And I'm not suggesting that some people haven't arrived at this conclusion because of their theology. But there was a time on the continent of Africa where this reality was not an issue based upon Christianity.
Gotcha.
And I can say to you clearly that the diminishment of same-gender loving people is the same as the diminishment of women. It follows the same pattern.
Same circle.
But always when there is a reformation, it is always historically true that the people who are stuck with the old way are the ones who lose.
That's it.
That, and you understand what I'm saying when I say
Yes.
that. The Reformation brings in the new and jettisons the old. That is where we are. We are in a full-on Reformation. And I would say to my African brothers and sisters and brothers who are African American, who are trying to hold on to things that I know that the Spirit of God in them is telling them to release.
That's it.
You're in the same place where the slaveholders were. They knew it was wrong.
Come on.
They knew it was wrong. And they split their own church then because they were determined to keep slavery in the South. They were determined. They were mostly Methodists and Baptists. And they still lost. And the same thing just happened in Georgia.
Yes.
Reformation. What made Warnock? We're talking about not a whole lot of percentage points, but
that's right. That's what I'm going to say. And we do need to talk about how come it was so close, right?
Exactly.
It's all of these reasons that we're talking about right now. White supremacy, homosexuality, abortion, all of these things that we're talking about right now in this conversation are some of the same reasons that race was so close. Never would I have ever imagined. I am grateful that he won, but we have to talk about why it was so close.
Weak and fearful patriarchy.
Yes.
If I could make 17,000 zillion Carlton Pearsons, I wouldn't have nothing to worry about. I could just make me some hot water cornbread and some watermelon and sit down. Weak, fearful patriarchy. Sisters and brothers, siblings who are listening to us today. I love a great man. I love a strong man. I love a great woman. I love a strong woman, a person who doesn't identify as either. But don't get strong on my demise.
That's right.
Don't try to be big. Don't try to increase yourself by diminishing me.
Right.
That because you can't win like that. You cannot win becoming something great at someone else's expense.
That's right.
That is not God's way. That is not the way of the kingdom of God. And that is what always fails over and over again.
And that's why we have book banners. And so the book tonight that we're talking about, All Boys Aren't Blue, like banned, right? And so you've got people trying to, it did what Nathan said it was going to do. It turned it on its head. You ban this book, all it's going to do is make people want, well, what the hell is in this book that I want that's written? I need to see, right? Even if it's just curiosity, more people bought this book until he became the New York Times number one bestseller for a whole year. A black gay man, or now he's not gay, he's non-binary, but a black non-binary man.
It's like telling your children, don't you put your hand in that cookie jar.
They're going to do it. I know it.
I promise you they'll do it.
Or don't touch the stove.
Don't touch that stove.
The bigger picture is these people are reading the handwriting on the wall that they have been weighed in the balance, found wanting, and there's a Ichabod over them. The glory has departed. The church has lost glory. It's imploding. And they know that. Donald Trump attacked Biden long before Biden even announced about running. He had an intuition that told him Biden would unseat him. The people who went to DC on the 6th of January, they know their days are numbered. And they're saying, I'm down without a fight. They know that we got all these first-time openly gay congresswomen and congressmen, and they're freaked out. All these black leaders that are articulate like Warnock and Sharp and knows what he's doing and is bipartisan. They're freaked out by all of that. And Trump
Absolutely.
has unleashed something. He lost by 3 million in the first election against Hillary. He lost by 7 million against Biden. But these people, his base, are mostly white evangelicals. The other
Yes.
who are less conservative are moving away from him. The man is a thug and a loser, and he's a criminal, and the whole world is singing, and yet the church folk are still hanging on because they're racist bigots. And he says the things that they think and feel, and they like that. But they've exposed their butts. And now
they think that God will do the will of them. You know, like we say, we're supposed to do the will of God. What they have decided is that God's responsibility is to do the will of them.
Yes.
Right?
Bishop Flunder and Bishop Pearson, somebody posted 238 reasons that we should not, that Donald Trump was bad for us.
Oh, I saw it today.
200. Did you see that 238 reasons? Every single one is accurate. From the first thing to the last thing.
Read a few.
He incited an insurrection against the government, mismanaged a pandemic that killed 1 million Americans, separated children from their families, lost their children in the bureaucracy, tear gassed peaceful protesters on Lafayette Square so he can hold a photo op holding a Bible in front of a church, tried to block all Muslims from entering the country, got impeached again, had the worst jobs record of any president in modern history, pressured Ukraine to get dirt on Joe Biden. I mean, the list goes on and on. Fired the FBI director for investigating his ties to
I said it's on my Facebook page.
Yeah. I'll send it to you. I will. I'll send it to you right now. But 230, we could talk about that all day long. But this is the person that it says that he is going to run for the president of the United States again. And people seem to be
just had a supremacist at his house for dinner just a few days ago. And just told the people that we need to bounce the Constitution.
I tell you, I have never seen. It's just the most asinine stuff I've ever heard in my life.
But it's not him. It's his enablers. These Republicans, I know he has something on them. They either the Bohemian Grove or they went to these foreign countries and they had cameras in the room. These guys were high. But these guys, like Senator Graham, who goes back and forth. People know he's gay. People know he's gay, and he knows he's gay. But when he said the things that were true about Trump, those who know his stuff said, "You better change that language, or we're going to expose who you are." Now, not many people. I just said, but I know people who live in North Carolina.
But you're right.
Yeah.
And that is the way the enemy of our souls has always defeated us when we're defeated. That whole thing about you got something that happened in your life and you don't want that to get out. So what you need to do is be careful that you, so this is what I would say to everybody that's listening to us tonight. If you've got something in your life that is of such that you don't want people to ever know about it, and people continue to box you in because of it, tell on yourself.
Tell on yourself.
Yep. Control the narrative.
You control the narrative. Tell on your, that's it, Sue. That's it right there.
I shared it with you all as well, but we got it here. I mean, this list is rich. It's enough for a conviction as far as I'm concerned. If they can't convict the man on this, listen.
How do you run for president with all that?
Come on now. Again.
How in the world how do you even have a I'm gonna run for president party?
Come on now.
And how could the church possibly support you? How can the Christian church let anybody, this is more stuff than the devil does in the day. How is it possible?
Everybody listening, you've got to watch, God forbid, on Hulu. It is the Jerry Falwell pool boy story.
Yes.
It shows it it's so detailed how Trump manipulated fundamentalist leadership to lie, and the hypocrisy within the church.
Absolutely.
It's astounding. You have to see it. If y'all haven't seen it, Bishop Flunder, you have to see it. And you got to tell other people.
I mean, the list is
All the facts.
238. Are y'all looking at the list? Are the people? I need y'all. Somebody say go Lizzo on them.
Yeah, Lord.
I
This
gotta
just
learn
be
more
on.
about Lizzo. I didn't know she was Kojic. I gotta learn more about her.
Yeah, you got to watch a documentary. It's
what?
it's really incredible. It's so
On
good.
what?
It's on Hulu.
What's it called?
Oh,
called
let me
Lizzo,
tell you
I
right
think,
now.
but-
Hold on. I think it is
but
called
you
Lizzo,
should
but
do
let
it.
me.
You should
And you
read it.
know
We-
what, Bishop Flunder? There's a young woman who interviewed, you know her, because I think she spoke to you very early on. But anyway, she did an interview with Pastor Pam Williams out of Philadelphia.
Yes. Yeah,
Anyway, she is the producer of this film. A young
Of
girl
Lizzo.
from Harlem. Yes.
Oh, wow.
Yep.
Well, she's
She is
got
the
quite a
producer.
story.
She
I mean,
does.
she's just, and the way that she fought back, she in some ways fought back against suicide
Yes.
because the reality of her self-hatred was deep. It was very deep. And it amazes me. It amazes me. But anyway,
It's
I
called
hope-
Watch Out for the Big. It's called Watch Out for the Big Girls.
there we go.
Watch out for the big girls. That's what
So
it's called.
she's this new large singer actor that's really popular. Is that Lizzo?
Yeah,
Yeah, big girl.
absolutely. Yep, big
Those are
girl.
hits and all that stuff. She's
Huh?
Lizzo.
She got a lot of
And-
hits.
Her
She's got
moniker is her own behind.
Yep. Watch out for the big girl.
I know I'm going to
That's a
enjoy
good-
this.
Oh, you
documentary.
gonna enjoy.
Yes. She's great. She's amazing.
Yes.
It's just
And-
her story
she
is
just-
real.
Watch out for the
And-
big
and-
girl.
Yes.
Watch out for the big girls.
Watch out for the big girls.
I just think it just the fact that a self-love of her body
Yes.
by
I knew you were
itself
talking about-
speaks
wow.
volumes to me, you know.
Oh,
And she's
yeah.
just-
And Bishop, you play first chair clarinet. You know Lizzo is a classically
Yes.
trained flautist.
Oh, and she
Isn't
is
that great?
so
But she
good.
she
When
just
I
rips
saw
it. Is she great? She's great.
I said, girl,
She
blow
is.
that thing. And she picks it up and goes, you know, you can tell she's extremely gifted on
Yes,
so
and
many levels.
Nika Onoora is the director of it. You've met her before, Bishop Flunder.
Yes.
She's a young girl from Harlem,
I know who
and
you're
she was
talking
doing
about.
stuff around LGBT issues,
Right.
and she
right.
interviewed a few people, and so she got this. She won an Emmy Award. She won an
Yes.
Emmy Award. Yes.
And I have watched Lizzo tell her story for quite some time now on the specials, her series, you know. And what really got me, I think it was on Hulu, but what really got me in her series, because it was multi-parts, her series, was she was bringing in other women who were heavy, who were
Yes.
considered big girls,
Yes.
and seeding into their self-esteem
That's right.
and building them until they became her big girl dancers,
That's right.
which I think is just absolutely incredible.
Powerful. Bishop
Oh,
Pearson, what is the name of the Jerry Falwell film you want the people to watch?
God forbid. 2 words.
God forbid. It's called,
On Hulu.
Dawn, if you hear me, it's called God Forbid.
Send that to me as a text.
Okay.
The pool boy himself narrates it. So he tells everything.
I love it. This
Yes.
is so good.
That's astounding.
And I know it's all true too.
But it exposes and indicts the whole fundamentalist movement that followed Trump and how he blackmailed Falwell after finding his stuff through Cohen, who also is on there, and brought the church in under the hypocrisy and the lies and
And that's the way so many of us are held in prison because of something that happened.
Yeah.
And we do not want anybody to tell it. I'm going to say it
That's
again.
it.
I know.
Tell your own truth and get
Truth.
out of that jail.
Wow.
Tell your own truth.
Yes, ma'am.
Hear this, folks.
And get yourself free from other people's power over your life. Somebody is going to tell it anyway. Somewhere along, in fact, they've told different ones already. So you may as well tell your own truth.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
It is
If
the
you
truth.
don't, somebody else will.
Listen, okay? That's the way that thing works.
Yeah.
What a great night.
And it's a lot of
An
this,
incredible night.
a lot of this is going to come out over the next 2 years within the Republican Party and other political office. The hypocrites, even in the church world,
Yes.
you're about to see
Absolutely.
an amazing revelation and an exposure of church people who are living not just a double life, but who are hypocritically accusing other people while living
Right.
their life.
Precisely.
It's not what you're doing, it's what you're denouncing that other people do that
Yes.
exposes you, I think.
You're
I
speaking
agree.
prophetically, Bishop. You're speaking prophetically. And I hope that our people hear this. That get out from under these bushels, get out from under this weight of responsibility and this feigned respectability.
Good.
What is it, Bishop? Feigned respectability.
Feigned respectability. Yes.
Yeah.
Let's get free. It is for freedom that Christ has made us free.
Yes.
Be
ma'am.
not entangled again with the yoke of bondage. It is for freedom that Christ has made us free. I love you all tonight.
Love you all. Thank you all so much for this great conversation. Want to thank our social media platform for joining us tonight. We'll be back on next week. We have a few commercials for you, a few advertisements for you. We ask that you stay till the end. Bishop Flunder, you have the first one.
God bless all of you who joined us tonight. I pray that you have been liberated again and again and again. The truth really will make you free. We want to encourage you to support these broadcasts. You see that we are growing, that we are expanding, our reach is expanding. I want to encourage you, please be a supporter, both with your presence and with your giving. You can give to support Beyond the Gatekeepers via Cash App to $TFAM Annual, TFAMANNUAL, or to PayPal at www.paypal.me/TFAM Justice. Let's keep the light of truth shining everywhere that we can. That is my prayer. God bless you tonight.
Want you to join us. You just heard Bishop Flunder speak, and she is the presiding prelate of the Fellowship of Affirming Ministries, and we will have TFM Holy Convocation 2023. Our theme is Miracles, Signs, and Wonders. We are going to be in Atlanta, Georgia, July 5th through July 9th. Registration is open. You can download the TFAM app to find out about registration. I do know that early registration is $150. General registration will be $175 in July 1st. On-site registration is $200. And then there's daily registration for $65. And we have a plethora of events. We're going to be at the Sheraton Atlanta Hotel. We are grateful for that. That's already set. Wednesday is the appointment of Global Presbyteers. Thursday night is new ordination of new church affiliates. Friday night is a live recording. Saturday during the day is the Episcopal consecration. Saturday during the evening is the Founders Night, celebration and song. And Sunday morning is Holy Communion, an anointing and sending service. And so we are so grateful, and we want you to make sure that you register. Please support Bullet in Flight Radio. We're so grateful for Dominic and his great work. It is an online radio station. If you want to advertise with Beyond the Gatekeepers, starting at $30 for 30 seconds, please email us at beyondthegatekeepershow@gmail.com. That's beyondthegatekeepershow@gmail.com. Thank you for joining us tonight. We appreciate your support. God bless you. Have a great evening.
Very much.